Super Bowl happened, and it happened in a kind of wild way. 40-22, Philadelphia Eagles. John, would you like to take a victory lap of sorts?
Man, me and Andrew Brandt. Andrew Brandt was way out on a limb in his prediction. Did you see that? Basically said not only is it going to be an Eagles win, but it might be the worst game of Patrick Mahomes' career. I didn't go that far. But ultimately, when I sat down to place my wagers on this game, I stayed true to what I was saying all last week. I was not in the same ballpark as him, but I kept saying, I was telling you guys, I was like, the Eagles are better in every single way.
Yeah.
They're better across the board, except quarterback. And if they would just,
even that, right?
Like, and even that, you could argue.
Went back,
sure about that?
If you went back a couple years,
night, yeah. But
if you went back a couple years, right, in the Super Bowl, then, right, 2023, it was not even like an argument that or maybe you could say it's an argument, right, to keep things as copacetic as possible. Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that game, as well, and you had a similar situation here. And this is ultimately where it went. I was really upset watching this game, not for any other reason than just, hey man, I should have went with my head, right? And I was just
ultimately I sat down and I was like, okay, I gotta go with the Eagles.
Yeah, I went with the mysticism, right? I went with the mysticism that we have of the Kansas City Chiefs, which is like, hey, all of the logic be damned that they got Patrick Mahomes, they're going to make something shake, and boy, did they not make a single solitary thing shake. Nothing. I was kind of amazed. Like, as much as we, talked about the fact that the Eagles are better in every way, Aaron Schatz of FTN Fantasy gave us a really interesting stat about just how good this Eagles defense is compared to, like, over the entirety of his data set, back to 1978, a top 10 defense by various metrics. They showed it, and yet still, I don't think that even the people who were leaning towards, the Eagles as the victors in this one coming into it,
and I got to admit,
would have expected a game that was as lopsided as the 40-22 final score. One showed, and two really honestly didn't show, because that 40-22 does not feel like what that game.
It was a lot worse than that.
It should be 42-6 or whatever it was.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I was almost swayed by that mysticism too, because I kept over the course of the whole week, I was like, they're better. They're better everywhere. But ultimately, when I was driving home with you guys, I was like, man, am I going to bet against, Patrick Mahomes? And I kept saying, I can't do it. I sat down yesterday about 2-3 hours before the game. I said, screw it. You mentioned the word logic. I said, I'm just going to go with logic. I'm just going to bet on the Eagles that they're going to get it done, etc. And I want to add this as well, because I was mentioning it with Sean Pendergast before the show. That was a highly entertaining game, which is sort of counterintuitive. You think, last second win, big, field goal or big play at the end. This one was highly entertaining in a different way because it was awe-inspiring. It was like, holy moly, they're really – I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah. I'm interested. 713-572-4610 is the number to text. Also, shout out to the live stream, the Mokaram Injury Lawyers live stream that we always have for you on YouTube and Twitch. I'm interested in how people saw it and how many people dipped out, if at all, and when. Because, as you mentioned, right, like, it's one of the things that I've long believed, which is there's a couple of things that we tend to make the same thing that are not, which is a good game and a close game.
Yeah.
And this really comes to a head in a month from now when we get into the NCAA tournament, when we have a lot of close games at times that are not inherently good games.
Right.
Because, college basketball can give you some of that sometimes,
and all
right?
that stuff, yeah.
This was a game that I don't know that there's been a better game to illustrate that on the other end, right? In the positive as opposed to the negative, where, no, this was a good game. At least it was entertaining for me personally. I'm interested to see how that falls in. Where it was not close at all, and maybe how much of that was just watching a game and seeing a power maybe fall. And I guess that's a question that needs to be asked: is like, does it feel like that dynasty is wrapped in any way, shape, or form? Right? Because we were coming in, it was just like, all right, what would it take to chip at this dynasty and maybe bring it to an end? And some of the things that we thought of were like, oh man, there's not a lot there. I don't know, does it feel vastly different a few days later?
Look, I just on your first point, I couldn't stop watching it because of the impressiveness of what the Eagles were doing. And that, as far as like the dynasty, I can't go there. As long as you still have Patrick Mahomes, which was the reason we both were sort of like swayed a little bit with the Chiefs. Now they have some big answers. The questions they answer here. Travis Kelce, I feel that, he may retire, but even if he doesn't, he's not the same guy, and he's their go-to. They have some young talent at the wide receiver position, but not overwhelmingly good. Offensive line. 2 years ago they had to, or when they lost to Tampa, I should say, they had to redo their offensive line.
4 years ago, because that was the 2021.
Yeah, they had to redo their offensive line, and they did, and they got back. So it's not over, but there's some severe questions that they need to answer.
Yeah. A lot of texts coming in all sorts of various places. Seems like this person really enjoyed the game from the 832. Mahomes was getting lit up. Mm-hmm. It was so damn beautiful. Like that
set the career high.
Yes, six sacks. And mind you, that happens with the Eagles not blitzing a single solitary time. Mm-hmm. Like that, you mentioned that Super Bowl that happened in the February of 2021. And this is where I clearly was being an idiot and did not learn from the lessons of the past, which was, oh yeah, that's right. When the Chiefs in particular, and probably just in general, when a team comes to the Super Bowl with offensive line issues, like that does not bode well for them. I remember Patrick Mahomes having to get horizontal in that game because he was under such pressure. And you pair the offensive line, I guess musical chairs that they've had to play all season long with the singular ability, and maybe not singular, because the ways in which the Eagles were able to generate pressure all year long without blitzing very much. And I should have seen the idea that this would happen. But again, the mysticism, right? The ways that this Kansas City Chiefs team has constantly sat at the brink and managed to find their way over into victory all season long. And then obviously you take that further through the era where we build Patrick Mahomes up to be the Jordan of this time. Yeah. And you go, all right, well, they're just going to find a way. But I don't know how you found a way out of just like early and often being under siege by only 4 dudes, which means that they have another, 7 dudes, am I doing my math right? Yeah. 7 dudes back there locking dudes up. Because early on, it wasn't like immediate pressure. It was like, oh, wow, those dudes are all clamped up. And now here comes Jalen Carter, and now here comes Nolan Smith, right? And that was fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it was so good to watch, and that's what made it so good. But I do want a couple things early on that sort of made me think, okay, I'm going to get destroyed here, was when they had literally on the first drive a horrible call on A.J. Brown pushing off on a huge conversion. My phone lit up, and it was all people like, here we go. It's happening.
Oh, that was the whole timeline on all social media. That was everybody. You tend to forget
it now, but at the time, I was like, "Well, crap."
You know what's tough about that?
They really are going to just thumb their nose at us and just give. But then it evened out, of course.
What's tough about that as well is you get the right angle, and it's like, hey, that's a hand to the face mask.
It was, but it didn't push off. It was like finding his room. I mean, literally. Radio officials in the booth, the former officials in the booth were saying, like, no, you got to let that go. Tom Brady said it as well, et cetera. And it was like the fact that it happened there, boom, boom, boom. They're going down the field after getting the opening kickoff. And then they go, nope, sorry, we're not going to do it. But they overcame that.
How'd you feel about the refereeing all the way across the game, though?
Very sloppy, very hit and miss. They missed calls on both sides that I thought should have let them play kind of moments. One on, I believe, the Eagles' second scoring drive that probably should have ended that drive or forced a field goal. I'm trying to remember the exact call, but I think it was a hold, a defensive hold or something like that. But either way, I thought it was just very inconsistent. And then the other thing I wanted to do here right out of the chute, because it's the first time this has ever happened, shout out to Channel View, man.
Hey!
Shout out, how about Channel View?
Yeah, man.
And Jalen Hurts. This blew my mind. I didn't even put it together. First Houston area quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Shout out to B. Scott. I saw him tweet this during the game. He became the first Houston product quarterback to start in a Super Bowl and then ultimately became the first one to win it by the end of the night. Shout out to Jalen Hurts.
Big time.
Does this get us closer to the crawfish shack?
I hope so, man. I hope so. I hope that little extra money he get, I hope he invests that into a little crawfish shack or something.
I imagine it's going to be more than a little.
A little something.
But yeah, man, salute to him, man. Like
that was awesome just as a Houstonian,
Nah, and on top of that,
it's cool too.
And
man.
He's cool.
He's so smooth.
He's cool as hell. He really is.
He's smooth as silk, man.
Yeah. first, I think actually, you know what? This might be the time to unveil this. We'll talk more about the ads of it all. Actually, probably next. But were you able to get the Jordan Brand advertisement that aired after this game? Which, look, man, there wasn't for me personally, and I guess I'm letting the cat out of the bag for when we talk about the ad. I feel like the ad game on the Super Bowl is largely donezo. Like, it does not feel like it has the same.
It was trash
It doesn't
last
feel
night,
like it has
man.
the same hit, same power. But I did feel like the afterward, like when you get those ads afterwards that teams put together, maybe not teams specifically, like it feels like the shoe brands do a great job of this.
Yeah.
This is the Jordan Brand ad when it came to Jalen Hurts that really felt like it landed, at least for me personally.
Hate that you said he wasn't a top 10 quarterback? Hate that you said he couldn't throw the ball? Hate that he got over when push came to shove? Hate that he always say the right thing?
Money is nice, championships are better.
Hate that in your all-knowing, armchair wisdom, you were sure he come up short. Hate that you got it wrong?
Looks like another love TKO. Awesome.
Yeah, man.
One incredible needle drop, right? It was Love TKO. It's TKO by what was that? No, it's Love Ballad, isn't it?
No, that was Love TKO by Teddy Pendergast. Pendergrass.
There we go. Yeah, Pendergast gives me a shot not to call him Teddy. But that's like the arc that Jalen Hurts has had over the course of
It's a feel
back to college. That man got benched in a championship game.
Yeah, remember that interview he had after they won the national championship?
He was as gracious as you could.
He sounded just like he do now.
Yeah, he was as gracious as you could get after getting benched. It's just a feel-good moment for anybody who lives in this area and anybody who really is just a fan of good dudes doing good things. It was fantastic from start to finish for Jalen Hurts, and shout out Channelview, man. They don't get a lot of love down in Channelview.
Well, they do now. Shout out to the East Side.
They need to build a statue right now at this moment.
Yeah.
I imagine so. At the very least, like if there isn't already the case, like Jalen Hurts' name need to be on some stuff over there at Lee. Like, I imagine his name need to be all over some stuff here shortly. But yeah, man, there's a lot of things to talk about during the course of this Super Bowl experience. There's people talking about Mountain Dew ads, and talk about Taylor Swift and Kelsey, and oh man, there's all sorts of stuff.